Something happens inside a woman when she crosses 40, a quiet rewiring that nobody wants to admit. One day she's the reliable center of her home, balancing work, birthdays, dinner, and duty, and the next she's staring into the mirror asking, "Who am I now that nobody needs me the way they used to?" That single question has ended more marriages than infidelity ever did. Men rarely notice the transition. To them, it's gradual, invisible, like watching a candle burn shorter each night until the flame suddenly vanishes. But for her, it's an explosion of realization that the identity she wore for 20 years no longer fits. The mother, the wife, the caregiver. Those titles once gave her purpose. Now they feel like chains. Biology plays its cruel part. Hormones shift, energy dips. The dopamine that once came easily from affection or routine begins to fade. The same brain that once rewarded stability now craves novelty, intensity, anything that makes her feel alive again. She mistakes that biological hunger for a spiritual calling, and in chasing it, she begins to dismantle the very life that once defined her. At 30, validation was a background hum. At 40, it becomes oxygen. Every compliment hits like a drug. Every glance from a stranger reminds her she still exists. She tells herself she's simply rediscovering her confidence, but what she's really doing is running from the terrifying truth that youth is gone, and nothing in modern culture teaches her how to age with grace. Modern society feeds this panic. You're still young. You can still start over. You deserve more. Magazines, influencers, therapists, even her friends whisper the same poison. They never mention the cost. They don't show the children confused, the husband broken, the home that turns cold. They sell her a dream of eternal desire while robbing her of peace. For men, the decline of youth brings power, wisdom, experience, authority. For women, it brings invisibility. That's the cruel asymmetry no one dares speak aloud. She feels it every time she walks into a room, and conversations don't stop like they once did. Every time she posts a picture and gets half the attention she used to. Each small loss cuts deeper than any betrayal because it confirms her worst fear. She's fading. And when fear meets vanity, destruction follows. She changes her hair, her clothes, her friends. She starts saying words like freedom and finding myself. But what she's really saying is, I want to feel 20 again, even if I have to burn my whole life to do it. This is not evil, it's panic, pure biological panic wrapped in the language of empowerment. She doesn't know that the rush she's chasing is just chemistry, not meaning. The excitement she calls passion is only adrenaline. The man she calls different is only new. But in that haze of dopamine, logic dies. Commitments feel like cages. Family feels like a weight. And the life she built with love becomes a reminder of everything she's trying to escape. Time, aging, mortality. That's where the fracture begins. Not with infidelity, not with hatred, but with silence. A quiet disconnection that grows between her memories and her reality. She starts living in the past because the present feels too ordinary. The smile she once gave her husband now goes to her reflection after a workout. The warmth she once saved for home now spills across social media posts begging for invisible applause. You think she's just bored. You think a vacation will fix it. You're wrong. You're dealing with a psychological storm that's been building since her first compliment at 15. A storm fueled by every ad that equated beauty with worth. Every movie that sold youth as love. Every friend who said you still got it instead of you've grown. When that storm finally hits 40, nothing in its path survives unchanged.
At first, the changes look harmless. She says she just wants to take better care of herself. New gym membership, healthier eating, different hair color. You tell yourself it's a bad thing. She deserves to feel confident. But you don't realize confidence isn't what she's chasing. It's attention. And attention, once tasted after years of domestic invisibility, is a drug more addictive than anything money can buy. She starts dressing a little younger, laughing a little louder, checking her phone a little more. Each like, each message, each passing glance reawakens something ancient. That rush she felt when she was 22 and the world seemed to orbit her beauty. She says she's just catching up with friends, but her brain knows the truth. She's testing her power. And for the first time in years, she feels alive. You, meanwhile, are confused. You haven't changed. You still provide, still love her, still believe in the life you built together. But she doesn't see that anymore. She sees you as part of the routine she's trying to escape. To her rewired brain, predictability equals death. The very stability she once begged for now feels like a coffin lined with comfort. She begins comparing, not just you to others, but herself to her younger reflection. She scrolls through old photos like they're crime scenes, searching for what she lost. She sees lines where there used to be light. She sees years where there used to be mystery. And with every comparison, resentment blooms, not toward time, but toward the people who remind her that time passed. That includes you. Modern culture feeds that resentment perfectly. Every reel, every talk show, every post screams the same sermon. You deserve to be happy. Don't settle. Love yourself first. But self-love isn't what they're selling. They're selling escape. Escape from accountability, from aging, from reality. And when she buys it, she doesn't just change her wardrobe, she changes her moral compass. Suddenly, the rules of marriage feel negotiable. The small lies begin: where she went, who she texted, why she needs more space. She says she's reconnecting with herself, but that self is now built on outside validation. One compliment from a stranger outweighs 10 years of loyalty from you. Why? Because your love is familiar, and familiarity no longer excites her dopamine-starved mind. That stranger's attention is unpredictable, dangerous, and therefore intoxicating. You can feel her slipping away, but you can't prove it. She's still affectionate sometimes, still smiles at dinner, still calls you love. But something behind her eyes has changed, a distance, a calculation. You're not her partner anymore, you're her cover story. And while you're telling yourself she's just going through a phase, she's already rehearsing her next life. Here's the brutal truth. When a woman built her identity on being desired, 40 feels like death. And instead of grieving that identity, she resurrects it through rebellion. Every new hobby, every sudden friendship, every late-night message is a quiet declaration of war against the reality she refuses to accept. She's not chasing a man, she's chasing a feeling, the electric thrill of being chosen again. Men mistake this for midlife crisis. It's not. It's existential panic. She's not trying to leave you, she's trying to outrun the mirror. But in doing so, she burns everything that tethered her to meaning, her marriage, her stability, her peace. And when the flames die, she won't stand in the ashes. She'll rewrite the story. Because accepting she destroyed something good for vanity would break her. So she'll tell the world she was oppressed, unloved. And society will applaud. So brave, they'll say, she finally chose herself. But the truth, the one nobody dares whisper, is that she didn't choose freedom. She chose attention. She chose to feel young for one more season, even if it meant dying alone in the next.
By the time you notice the distance, it's already too late. She's not angry anymore, and that's the real danger. Anger means there's still fire, still investment, still something left to lose. But silence? Silence means she's already gone. You'll see it in small things first. The way she stares at her phone and smiles. Not the smile she gives you, but a private one, delicate and dangerous. The way she stops correcting you, stops arguing, stops caring. She moves through the house like a guest, polite, detached, already rehearsing her exit. And you'll tell yourself, she just needs space. You'll try harder, buy flowers, plan dinners, remind her of old memories.
But that only pushes her further away. Because to her new, dopamine-hungry brain, your effort feels like pressure. It reminds her of obligation, the very thing she's trying to escape. Soon, she'll begin rewriting history. Every happy memory becomes fiction. Every compromise becomes oppression. Every act of love becomes manipulation. She'll tell herself she was never truly happy, that she's been pretending for years. Not because it's true, but because she needs a villain to justify what she's about to do. And in this story, you're the villain. Her friends, especially the divorced ones, will fuel the fantasy. They'll pour wine and whisper validation. You deserve better. He never really saw you. You've wasted the best years of your life. What they won't mention is that they're miserable too. Because misery craves company, and they can't stand to watch her stay in the stability they abandoned. Social media becomes her new mirror. Every post, every filtered photo, every motivational quote is part of her rebranding. She's not a wife anymore. She's finding herself. The likes flood in, and for the first time in years, she feels powerful again. She doesn't realize it's counterfeit power, borrowed from strangers who don't know her, don't love her, don't care what happens next. Then comes the me time, the solo trips, the gym sessions that last too long, the sudden secrecy, passwords changed, phone always face down. You can feel her pulling away, but you can't confront her without being labeled controlling. You're trapped in a psychological double bind. If you question her, you're the problem. If you ignore it, you're complicit in your own erasure. And here's the cruelest part. When she finally crosses the line, she won't even see it as betrayal. She'll tell herself it just happened, that she deserves happiness, that she owes it to herself to explore this connection. She'll convince herself the affair isn't cheating, it's healing. Because the modern woman has been trained to equate desire with truth and comfort with lies. By the time she admits what happened, she'll already be gone emotionally. And when you confront her, she'll cry, not because she regrets it, but because she hates being the villain in her own story. She'll flip the narrative, painting you as cold, distant, neglectful. And society will believe her, because the world never blames a woman for chasing happiness, even when her happiness costs everyone else theirs. You'll stand in the ruins, wondering what went wrong. You'll replay every argument, every compromise, every gesture, trying to find the moment you lost her. But there is no moment. You didn't lose her. You lost to time. You lost to biology. You lost to a culture that teaches women to worship their reflection and call it empowerment.
Every fantasy has an expiration date. At first, the new life feels electric. Every message, every date, every glance in the mirror floods her brain with the dopamine that domestic life no longer gave. But soon, the thrill begins to decay. The same brain that once turned routine into boredom now turns excitement into exhaustion. The texts slow down, the compliments fade. The attention that once made her feel alive begins to feel desperate. That's when the silence returns, louder than before. She looks around her new apartment, new body, new image, and feels the same old emptiness staring back. Because she didn't fix the wound, she just decorated it. And now, without the noise of family and familiarity, she's alone with the one voice she's been running from all along, her own. She scrolls through social media again, but the algorithm doesn't comfort her anymore. The same "you deserve better" quotes now feel like accusations. The same empowerment influencers now look hollow, rehearsed. And the realization creeps in, she wasn't chasing freedom, she was chasing applause. And applause doesn't last. Meanwhile, the man she left behind slowly rebuilds. He's broken, but he's grounded in reality. Pain matures him. Guilt consumes her. For the first time, she sees the wreckage, the children's quiet resentment, the friends who disappeared, the home that no longer feels like hers. And she tells herself, "I was brave."
But deep down, she knows bravery creates, it doesn't destroy. What she did wasn't courage, it was panic dressed as self-discovery. She tries to come back sometimes, not physically, but emotionally. A message here, a memory there. She tells herself she misses the stability, the peace, the family. But she doesn't miss you. She misses who she was when you loved her, before she burned that version to ashes. The tragedy of modern womanhood is this. She's been taught to measure her worth by how much the world desires her, not by how deeply someone knows her. So when the desire fades, so does her identity. And instead of building something lasting, wisdom, character, legacy, she chases the illusion of relevance. She doesn't realize relevance is the cheapest form of immortality. By 50, many of these women look back at their 20s and 40s like they're different lifetimes, one ruled by youth, the other by fear. They see the patterns clearly now, how every bad decision was wrapped in beautiful language, freedom, truth, growth. But it was all avoidance. Avoidance of time, of stillness, of meaning. And meaning, once lost, is the hardest thing to rebuild. She'll scroll through photos of her children now grown, her ex-husband smiling beside someone who actually appreciates peace, and she'll tell herself it's fine, that she's evolved, matured, healed. But the truth hits hardest in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when the validation is gone. That's when she realizes the price of her freedom wasn't just a marriage, it was herself.
Here's what nobody dares to say out loud. Most women over 40 aren't unhappy because they married the wrong man. They're unhappy because they believed the wrong story. A story that told them happiness is a feeling, not a responsibility. That passion is more important than peace. That attention is proof of value. And that if they ever feel restless, someone else must be to blame. They were raised on lies, fairy tales of eternal desire, modern slogans of self-worship, influencers selling liberation as lifestyle. They were never taught what to do when the applause stops, when beauty fades, when validation runs dry. No one told them that real happiness is not in being admired, but in being grounded. That love isn't a thrill, it's endurance. That peace doesn't come from being chosen again, but from choosing the same person again and again. So when that silence hits at 40, they panic. They think something's wrong with their marriage, their man, their life. They don't realize the void they feel isn't external. It's the echo of all the years they built identity around being wanted instead of being whole. And when that illusion collapses, it takes everything with it. Men watch this unfold like a slow-motion car crash, powerless to stop it. They try reasoning, pleading, forgiving, but you can't argue with biology and culture combined. You can't compete with a lifetime of programming that equated self-worth with youth and validation. When her mirror becomes her enemy, you become collateral damage. The saddest part? Most of them don't even want new love. They want themselves back. The girl who turned heads, the woman who felt alive, the version they lost somewhere between motherhood and mirrors. But time doesn't bargain, and in refusing to grieve who they were, they destroy who they could have become. No one teaches women how to age with dignity anymore, how to trade excitement for depth, beauty for grace, chaos for wisdom. They're told to stay young forever, even if it kills their peace. And in chasing that ghost, they break not just families, but generations. Children grow up learning that love is disposable, that commitment is conditional, that validation is everything. That's the legacy of this silent epidemic. Not evil women, not failed marriages, but a culture that taught half the world to fear the mirror instead of honor it. A culture that praises rebellion but mocks loyalty, that rewards destruction and calls it growth, that convinces women to burn down their homes and call it freedom. The truth no one tells you is simple. The unhappiness of women over 40 isn't proof that love dies. It's proof that we built a society on lies. Lies that said fulfillment comes from constant attention. Lies that said growing older is losing worth. Lies that said happiness is something you chase instead of something you build.
The women who survive this storm are the rare ones, the ones who stop running, who face the mirror, who accept that beauty fades but meaning doesn't. They trade the temporary high of being desired for the lasting peace of being known. They understand that time doesn't take value away, it reveals it. And those women become something more powerful than beautiful. They become whole. So if you're a man watching your wife, your partner, your world slowly turn away, remember this. You didn't cause her unhappiness. You simply stood too close when her reflection cracked. And if you're a woman hearing this, understand. Your worth didn't leave when your youth did. It was never in your face, your body, or your likes. It was in your character, your loyalty, your wisdom. That's the truth no one tells you. And the sooner you face it, the sooner you stop destroying everything trying to prove you still matter.